for you today. I am Craig DeRoche, the president and CEO of the Family Policy Alliance. It's great to be with you, and but unfortunately today we've got some kind of heavy topics. We're going to talk about what is being known as the DC5 in social media. Justice for the five infant bodies that the police have obtained that appear to be after abortions, and at least in one of the cases, maybe very clearly in violation of the partial birth abortion ban in our country. And so that's a very serious topic. And then we're going to switch gears, though, and we're going to talk about an equally serious front to life, which is human trafficking and what's unfortunately going on and what's developing around the borders in Ukraine and what we can do about both of these things. Listen, we want you to share. We want you to comment. We want you to participate in these videos. These are very important conversations, and this is in the headline news right now today, what we're talking about. And we have such a wonderful guest in Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey. Congressman Smith is the co-chair of the Congressional Pro-Life Caucus, a longtime leader in advancing life. He's going to talk to us about both of these topics. And a lot of people know Congressman Smith from his work in pro-life. They may not know that he's also a founding member of the Human Trafficking Caucus to fight human trafficking. And that's why we wanted to have him talk about Ukraine as well. And what you may not know is he's one of the most prolific legislators in the House of Representatives as well. I believe number 2 of all serving members, passing 47 bills that have become law. You're the second most prolific. But is that
number one now? I'm actually number 1.
You're actually number 1 now.
In the last 2 weeks.
Wow. And so a lot of people say things don't get done, and quite frankly, as a taxpayer, we know they don't. But you, sir, show that things can get done. And we're here to talk about things where we desperately need help in America. And let's start with that DC5. Maybe some of our viewers don't understand what that is yet. What's the situation, Congressman? What are we up against here?
Well, we're up against what we hope will be an enforcement of the Partial Birth Abortion Act and also the Born Alive Act. I mean, we have 2 laws that go largely unenforced because it's very hard to get the evidence, because abortion clinics are so closed and so shrouded in secrecy. But a couple of activists got fetal remains from a waste management driver outside a clinic in Washington, D.C. And they found over 100 remains, but 5 of those unborn children were very, very old in terms of their gestational age, 28 to 30 weeks. In one case, one little girl has all the telltale marks of it being a partial birth abortion, where the brain is entered with a huge incision, and the brains are literally sucked out, and that is illegal. We passed the Partial Birth Abortion Act, became effective in 2003, but there's been very little enforcement because there's very often not the evidence. So now we're asking, and there's 2 letters. The first letter asks that Muriel Bowser, the mayor of DC, ensure that it be investigated by the coroner. The second, which Senator Michael Lee and I have put together, has well over 60 House and Senate members asking the Attorney General to investigate. These are babies who have been killed, and the DC police said, well, it's just a legal abortion. We don't believe it is. I mean, if it was just a legal abortion, all of those deaths are gruesome and horrific, and they represent the loss of a infant to the abortionist. But in the case of those 5, it would appear, Craig, that they, again, are old enough to have been a violation of the law. And our hope is that our letter, which will go out today, again, Mike Lee and I have put it together. He's a wonderful senator, very strong in his pro-life convictions. And we have, the who's who of the pro-life movement signing on to that letter.
So, and this whole thing to people at home has got to sound surreal. So the abortion clinic, though, I just want to go through the facts here. They actually discard 100 human beings together in a box
Yeah.
uh, uh, to a trash company while we're concerned about war crimes and the treatments of human life all around the world. We're going to get to that. But that's what's happening in Washington. And the only thing unusual is that people got to see what they're doing.
Yes.
In that's been referred to the police right now,
That's
Congressman.
exactly it, Craig. And added to that, there have been many times. Sorry, there have been many times when um, large numbers of aborted babies have been found stored. I mean, Gosnell, the convicted abortionist in Philadelphia, he had them stored in his house. He had very large babies who had been killed by snipping the back of their necks. He is now in jail. This is, I hate to say it, it's common practice. And waste management companies pick up and dispose little babies as medical waste. And this is all the more reason why we need to protect the unborn child throughout pregnancy. We're all hoping that the Dobbs case will be the beginning of the reversal of Roe versus Wade. But that said, here we have 5 kids, very, very old. And if you look at the pictures, Live Action has done a great job in getting this information out as well, as are you. And when you look at those pictures, it just breaks your heart. These little babies have not just been abandoned, they have been brutally abused by the abortionist. And the partial birth abortion ban has serious penalties for the doctor. The woman is held harmless. There's no action ever brought against the woman, the mother, because we do believe they're co-victims. But against the so-called doctor, the abortionist, they need to be held to account civilly with a penalty financially, but with a jail term.
Well, absolutely. And we're not going to share the pictures here, but
Yeah.
I do want to tell people that we don't want to shock people, but it is okay. It's not just voyeurism or things that with any atrocity that happens in our world. It is important for people to know the truth and accept what the levels of depravity and horror that human beings have to witness it, just as we've had to witness when we're gonna talk about war and stuff here in the future. It's kind of a heavy conversation we're having here today, Congressman. We're usually a little bit
Very
lighter
quick.
than this, but
Yeah.
you may want to pray and think about it before you take a look at those. But you may want to take a look at them because I have, and I can tell you that these are precious human beings created in God's image that have been defiled and injured, but they are fully developed children. Fully developed children, and it's heartbreaking. And I hope that this what you're doing, by the way, and so I just want to let everybody know today's a big day. We want you to share this. That's why I want you to share this as this video comes out. We're so grateful to have Congressman Chris Smith, the co-chair of the Pro-Life Caucus, with us here today, and he has a letter. I actually have it right here in front of me that he and Senator Mike Lee are really taking the lead on. And you're calling out the Attorney General and the Mayor of DC to take law enforcement action here. That there is video evidence of a crime of murders, essentially, and you're asking them to investigate that. Tell us what your fellow members in Congress, when they found out you were leading this letter, what they told you, and how many again are signing on to this?
We have over 60, House and Senate.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's been received well. They're ready to. And
Members,
when you get to those kind of numbers,
Yeah.
the Department of Justice has to kind of take you seriously, right?
they really do.
They
Even if it
serve
was
and
just
work.
one member, they should. I mean, when you look at the little girl, they have a picture of a little girl with her eye open, looking right back at you. I mean, this is lethal child abuse in the most extreme fashion, and it's just covered under the rubric of abortion. Are you kidding me? Abortion kills a baby at all stages, but these kids are very, very mature and old, and it is a violation of law. We have the law on the books. It needs to be enforced.
Amazing. And so you've been a big part of this. I want to have our audience understand that federal laws, while the Supreme Court did what they did in Roe versus Wade. We're going to talk. The next question I'm going to have is about after Roe. But first off, I want you to let people know about the laws that do exist. That we don't have to pass a law to stop this kind of abuse.
Sure.
You have been involved in others in preserving and passing laws that are already on the books. Tell our audience a little bit about those.
Well, there are a large number of state laws, including Texas, including Mississippi, and others that have a time certain. In the case of Texas, it's when the heart beats, and so that is in the process of it's being considered by the courts. But that saves kids from about 6 weeks onward. The Dobbs case, or Mississippi case, which is before the Supreme Court right now, would disallow abortions after 15 weeks. We know now beyond any reasonable doubt that babies feel pain. They feel excruciating pain at 15 weeks, and maybe even before that. I'm reintroducing the Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act because the science has, my first bill said 20 weeks, and now we have enough evidence to clearly posit that it's at least 15 weeks that they suffer. Several states have passed laws at various, age limits, including there are laws about protecting unborn babies who happen to be dealing with Down syndrome or have Down syndrome. So there's more state laws than federal, and on the federal level, that's primarily because of the filibuster. When we get a good bill passed in the House, it very often languishes in the United States Senate. But right now, the other side has passed, including in my state of New Jersey, legislation to codify abortion right up until birth. Right up until birth. And of course, in a late-term abortionist clinic, sometimes that means after birth as well, as we saw with Gosnell, the infamous doctor from Philadelphia, so-called doctor. And then, Colorado just passed a similar statute, bad statute, that again allows abortion on demand till birth. So the other side is on the move, saying that any time before birth, that child is so much garbage that can be killed. And how are they killed? They're killed either with chemicals, toxic chemicals, or they are killed in many cases by dismembering them piece by piece. It is a horrific procedure, barbaric in the extreme. And it's defended with people with pinstripe suits on and white coats, claiming to be doctors. And I remember the founder of Prison Fellowship did a wonderful book called Against the Night. And he made the point that, there are barbarians doing the most terrible things, but they have slicked down hair, they coiffed hair, they look, respectable. They have a PhD or MD after their name, but they're doing horrible things. And that's what we have going on right now. And again, so what we're hoping, if the court affirms the Dobbs case, and hopefully it goes further on Dobbs, and Attorney General Fitch from Mississippi is a magnificent attorney general she and her solicitor general have done a wonderful job before the court. And our hope is that they go even further. I mean, it was the Supreme Court itself, Craig, as you know, that said in 1973, we need not resolve the difficult question of when human life begins. What? And then you legalize abortion until birth. And then it has stymied efforts at the state and federal level ever since. Our hope is the courts say that is, the worst among the worst decisions ever rendered. 63.5 million unborn babies have been killed since Roe versus Wade. That equates with every man, woman, and child living in the country of Italy. That's how large this child death has been in the United States. And then we export it, especially under Biden, giving money and help to pro-abortion NGOs all over the world. That's outrageous as well.
It's a crime against humanity. It's a scourge. And it puts us in conflict with God Himself and how we honor life. And that's what I try to explain to people. If you don't value life, all sorts of things come off the rails with your values and with your policies and the rest of it. And it begins at conception. You're such a warrior about that. You've done so much already, but you're also a fighter for life after people leave the womb, after they're born, and you have a great track record. And you're one of the leaders in human trafficking, fighting that another scourge, another form of evil in our world. And unfortunately, that's rearing its head in Ukraine with families that women and children that are trying to flee the oppression of the Russians in the Ukraine. Tell us what's going on there. Tell us what you're up to and what Christians can be doing to help.
Thank you, Craig. And to your point, I've authored 5 laws to combat human trafficking, including our original Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000, which is our landmark domestic and international law. It emphasizes the 3 Ps: prevention, prosecution, and protection. Prosecution against the traffickers, holding harmless the victims, which are often women and children. And in Ukraine, we're seeing, among the chaos of 4+ million refugees who have crossed over the border into Poland, Hungary, Romania, other countries in proximity to Ukraine, and also internally displaced, 6 million plus, that predators have made their way to the borders and near the borders to abduct, to deceive people, holding up signs, and saying, we can provide you shelter, then taking them off to God knows where. And so I'm the special representative for the Organization for Security Cooperation in Europe, Parliamentary Assemblies on human trafficking. And yesterday we had a hearing on this. The day before we had a meeting with a lot of our friends in Europe, in Poland especially, pressing that there needs to be a number of best practices immediately pushed, especially situation awareness among the NGOs that are providing humanitarian help. If it doesn't look right, make sure that this person is not passed off to someone who has absolutely ill intent for them. Coincidentally, back in 2012, I had asked the foreign minister of Ukraine to host a conference to train flight attendants on what to look for, because so many Ukrainian women were being deceived into going to places like Dubai to be models, and they would end up being sex trafficked. It was a great conference in 2013 when it was held. But my great fear is that all these traffickers are converging, including from the Middle East, to apprehend these people by force, fraud, or coercion, and then to get them to an airport nearby, maybe in Germany or somewhere, or by rail to places where they will be exploited. So it is a huge, huge problem in Ukraine. And the Russians, we don't know what they're doing with the people that they're abducting and taking into Russia. And that's very, very problematic. There's been, many, many instances where that's happened. Are they being sold into slavery, modern day slavery too? So we're really pushing hard to make sure that everyone, even somebody from the UNHCR, the High Commissioner for Refugees at the UN, said 2 days ago at a conference that I was a part of, I was by Zoom and they were in Vienna. He said, we're not doing enough. This is a big problem that's not being addressed adequately. So I'm raising it every chance I get, and trying to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Protect. Make
Absolutely.
Sure,
and Congressman, we're here with Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey, and we're talking about these incredibly heavy topics, but we're so grateful to have a champion in you and what you're doing. So I'm gonna tell our audience what we want from them here, and then I've got one more question for you, and we'll let you get back to your busy day there and protecting us in Congress, folks. Congressman Smith is doing the job of several congressmen in advancing the plight and to remember the memory of these 5 children, including the other 100 that were in this box that were discovered that the police are now in possession of. We need your help. Congressman Smith and his friend Senator Lee are sending letters. They're doing their job. We need you to click on this link. We need you to take action in this video right now today and add your voice to the congressmen and the senators and the other 60 that they've recruited, and send a message to the mayor of Washington, D.C. They have a responsibility to uphold the law and honor the lives of these children that were taken, potentially, it looks like, in violation of that law, as well as to our attorney general. We want you to click on this. We want you to take action. And that leads me back to saying now, Congressman, we have got a big audience. Family Policy Alliance is blessed. We work with we used to be called Focus Action. We have the 40 state family policy councils. Like you have one of the best there in New Jersey, the great Len Dio created and grew up to where it is. But sometimes people can be discouraged. They say, gosh, we're doing all of this work. We're taking these actions. Tell everybody, I think I see the excitement in you. This year's different. I think that our voices are being heard. I think we're making a difference. But could you give us some encouragement to the folks that are going to watch this video today about what role they're playing and how they're serving the Lord in advancing his kingdom?
Thank you, Craig. And Len Dio is a friend for decades. Sean Highland, who also works with you guys. I just want to thank you for the great group in New Jersey. And above all, thank you, Craig, for your leadership. It really makes a difference. It makes a big difference. But I'm encouraged. I've been in the pro-life movement since 1972. I met my wife in it when we formed a pro-life organization. I was president. She was the president of it at Trenton State College. And we always thought it would only be a few years if people just knew the truth of what abortion does, not just to the baby, but to the mother as well. And of course, all of the outreaches to post-abortive women have absolutely underscored that abortion, while it has maybe an immediate sense of relief, has an intermediate and an absolute long-term deleterious effect on women's health, especially their psychological and mental health. So this movement is amazing because it reaches out to everyone, including post-abortive women, including abortion clinic operators. Bernard Nathanson, who ran the largest abortion clinic in New York and was one of the three founders of NARAL, one of the big abortion groups, he became a pro-lifer. So we need to pray for them, pray for our adversaries. Of course, some of those loathe us. I get the mail. I get it all the time in the emails and in the social media. But tough, we're supposed to bend into the wind. And Jesus says, rejoice and be glad when you're attacked. It's a little hard to do while you're being attacked. But we got to realize we're trying to defend the weakest and the most vulnerable. And so the encouragement is the pro-life Republican Party. Sadly, the Democrats have gone more to the side that there isn't anyone in the House anymore that's pro-life. And even some of the pro-life, what we thought were pro-life senators, when the Abortion on Demand Act was coming up, right till birth, were not with us. And so but on the Republican side, our leadership is very strong, Kevin McCarthy, and so our entire leadership. And there was a time when that wasn't always the case, believe me. So there's a really good, solid group. Many of the governors, in Texas, and DeSantis is in Texas. The governor signed, a 6-week ban on abortion based on the heartbeat. These are courageous men and women that are doing this. So I think the prayer, and the fasting, as never before. Appealing to God, because we know He loves these children, He loves their mothers, to stop this. The law is a great teacher. And if the law does say, no, we're not going to be doing this, in almost every circumstance, we will then end up having, I think, a pro-life country. We just had a major win. All of the riders, as they call them, the Hyde Amendment, which saves about 60,000 children because the money's not there to effectuate their death. And again, the law being a great teacher, when money's not there to do it, it does cause rethinking, and it's not being facilitated. I did an amendment in 1983 on the ban funding for the under the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program. Every one of those, including conscience protections, were taken out by the Democrats in the House of Representatives. Several of us, like Tom Cole, went and tried to put them all back. I had 4 amendments that I offered. Every one of them were defeated. The Senate held firm. Again, a lot of prayer, and the pro-life groups rallied. You rallied, and every single pro-life rider is still in existence as of just a couple of weeks ago. We will have another fight as we come up to, and it's by the grace of God. They've got a pro-abortion on steroids president. He is the abortion president and vice president. They got the House and the Senate, and through the grace of God, those important riders are intact. So that was a major win. But Dobbs will, when that's handed down sometime in June, That will be a pivot like none other, in my humble opinion. So we got to be prepared with prayer and action to reclaim this country for the weakest and the most vulnerable.
Amen. Amen. And we're gonna wrap up there. And thank you, Congressman. I love your passion. I love your energy. I love where you're telling us let's be prayer warriors. Let's get out there because this is a big year. And after Roe is coming. That's what we have hope and we have prayers. We're sending those up to God right now. Let this be the year where we can stop abortion in our country, in the states. But we know that the ruling is likely to be the beginning of our engagement, not the end, where we're going to have to take that fight to the states and the local governments. But you, sir, are leading us nationally on this and have for decades. And it's a blessing to have you on the show with us and give us this encouragement. We'll be by your side. Please, everybody, click on these links. Get involved today. We can move the needle this year. It's been an honor to have you with us today, Congressman Smith. God bless you, sir, and your work.
God bless you. You have a wonderful initiative and organization, and I can't think of a better leader for it than you. You're amazing.
Thank you, brother. All right, we'll talk soon. God
Thanks,
bless.
Thank you.